body's like a melody in my head that I can't keep out. Got me singing like. What's good everyone, time for imamusicmogul. Welcome to a brand new video. Today we're gonna go ahead and remake Lil Tjay's In My Head. It features a sample from one of my top 10 most favorite pop songs ever made, and that is Ayaz Replay. Shout out Ayaz, shout out JR who produced that track. This track was produced by Yoshi and Yvng Finxssa. But without any further ado, let's just jump right into this remake. First things first, I set our tempo to 143 beats per minute. And let's start off with that main guitar sound that we hear throughout the entire record. We're gonna go over to our soft instrument track here and bring in an instance of Alchemy. We're gonna go over to guitars and we're gonna bring in the preset called Guitar PM Acoustic. Let's go ahead and close that up. And let's go ahead and draw in that pattern. All right, so there is the melody right there. Next, let's go ahead and open up Alchemy. And I'm just going to adjust this down here a little bit. Maybe we'll add in some more reverb here. Do a little bit there. Next, let's go ahead and bring in Logic's Amp Designer right over here. And we're gonna go to a preset called under Clean, Big Cap Clean. Just gives it that more sort of narrower guitar type of vibe. After that, we're gonna go ahead and bring in some chorus just to soften up that sound. We'll go to modulation chorus. And we're gonna bring in the preset Guitar Summer here. And pull down the intensity. Next, we're gonna go ahead and bring in a plugin by yours truly called Wavy. And for this one, we're gonna add in a little bit more reverb and give it a little bit some girth underneath the notes over here as well. Just gives that piano a little bit more energy. Sorry, that guitar. And last but not least, let's go ahead and bring in an exciter just to sort of intensify some of the low mids a little bit more. All right, next up, let's go ahead and layer up this guitar sound and create a new softer instrument track. And for this, we're gonna go ahead and bring in a piano. We'll go to Steinway Grand Piano, copy this down over here. And for the sound, I'm just gonna take the top end and just filter that out a little bit. I'm gonna send this over to the left a little bit, just like that. Next, let's go ahead and bring in some of the drums. We're gonna create a new softer instrument track. And for this, we're gonna go ahead and bring in a drum kit I saved for this tutorial called the In My Head drum kit. And let's start off with the clap. All right, so there is the clap pattern right over there. The interesting thing about this song here is that it is like a pop, trap, hip hop song, but it also has elements of drill in it. So the drum pattern is more drill, the melody is more poppy, and the vocals is like hip hop, trappy type of sound. Really, really nice, unique sort of blend fusion of all those genres. So with that said, now let's get to the hats. All right, next let's go ahead and take our brush tool over here. We're going to go over to 30-second notes, and we're just going to brush in a little sort of no repeat over there. All right, we'll go back to our pencil tool. Do another one over here. All right, so the interesting thing about these hats over here, it's not gonna be playing out at the same velocity for that roll. We're gonna give it a nice ramp up with some velocity changes. So we're gonna hit this right over here. And for these notes here, we're just going to take that and bring it down, and we get a nice slide up. Same thing with this as well. All right, next thing, let's go ahead and put in our open hat. Let's go ahead and draw in our second open hat over here. All right, next let's go ahead and draw in our kick pattern. And finally, let's go ahead and put in that gunshot effects over here, create a MIDI region. And we're just going to put it on the 1 here. Next, let's go ahead and create that 808. Now there are a couple, and when I say couple, there are a lot of 808 patterns in this one. I'm only going to put in 2, and then in the final arrangement, I'll show you the other patterns. I'm creating a new softer instrument track, and for this, I'm going to go ahead and drag in my 808 on top of that track. I'm going to bring on the 808 to the sampler zone per note one. And this is where I like to do my gliding 808s or my sliding 808s in sampler, because once again, Quick Sampler does not have a legato function. So I'm going to stretch that out just like that. Everything else is fine. The only thing I got to change is up here. We're going to change our glide to 30 milliseconds, and we're going to change our mode from poly to legato. Next, we can go ahead and close that up, and we can draw in that MIDI pattern. So now we're going to put in those sliding notes. One's going to go right up here. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and manipulate this 808 a little bit more. It's not exactly the same sound, so we're going to go ahead and change that up. Next, let's go ahead and I'm going to bring in Logic's Fat Effects over here just to give it a type of different tone to it. I'm going to turn off everything over here, just like that. First thing we're going to do is going to turn on the filter section over here, and we're going to pull down the cutoff to make it a little bit of a darker sounding 808. Let's go ahead and solo that out. I'm going to pull up the soft limiting just to give it a little bit of saturation. All right, next let's go ahead and bring in a little bit of distortion just to distort the sound a little bit. We'll go to distortion, we'll go to overdrive. Give it a little bit more energy. I'm just gonna pull the tone all the way up and we'll pull down the drive a bit. All right, and last but not least, the 808 in the track was nice and wide. Now I'm gonna bring in a plugin that is by yours truly. I designed this plugin strictly for this reason alone. This is a stereo winder plugin once again, but it works perfectly on 808s. Not a lot of widening plugins on the market does what this does. So what you want to do first here is make it the 808 wider by pulling up the spread knob. That's going to widen it up. So now our 808 is nice and wide. But the problem with widening up 808s, you get phase issues on the lower frequencies. So what we're going to do now is bring up the bass mono and we're going to clean that up. So now it's nice and clean, a nice wide 808 that's also mono compatible. So what this is effectively doing, we're only widening the higher frequencies on the 808 and everything below 200 Hertz is set to mono, and that's what you want when widening up an 808. And what I'm going to do here is just pull up the side boost a little bit just to get a little bit more width on the stereo fields. All right, now let's go ahead and just duplicate this over. And there's a couple of the patterns does change up, starting with the claps. Let's go ahead and do that right now. So this clap right here, we're gonna bring down the velocity because it's supposed to be a little bit quieter. And we get a little bit of a clap roll over here as well. But we gotta do that ramp up once again to these velocities here. So we're just gonna go like this, bring it down, bring this one down as well. So it's a nice ramp up. All right, next thing we gotta change is the open hat. So this open hat that ends on this note here, we're gonna put that note down over here. We'll just take that one out. It acts like a transition. Next, let's go ahead and change up our kick pattern. All right, and last but not least, let's go ahead and change up our 808 pattern. So to get that sliding effect, you got to put another note underneath it. Let's make these a little longer here. So we get this. All right, next up, I'm going to go ahead, listen to the track, arrange it, add in the other 808 patterns, and we'll come right back. All right, so here is the final arrangement done right over here. Before we go ahead and play it back, I just want to show you some of the things that I changed and added. First of it is the 808 patterns. Here is the third one. And then we got our fourth 808 pattern right over here. And then you got this transition effects right over here. All that is a triangle sample, but reversed, and it gives you this nice transition effect. And then you got the vocal sample. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now very quickly. So what you want to do here is grab a copy of the original IAS replay a cappella, and then change your session down to the original tempo of replay, which was 91 beats per minute. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And then what you want to do is make sure your a cappella is in time. I already have it done here. So once you move it around, you end up with a perfect 4-bar loop for the phrase that you need for in my head. Once you got that loop down pat, let me just delete this. You're going to copy that over down to a new track, change it over to your session back to 143 beats per minute. And now your vocal sample is going to be out of time because we went from 91 to 143. We got to tempo match it. And to do that, all we got to do is select our region, hold down the Option key on our keyboard, go to the corner of the region to get these squiggly lines, and then click and drag to 8 bars. And that will perfectly tempo match it to 143 beats per minute. And this is what you get before any effects. Every day. But what you gotta do here is add an EQ to make the vocals a little bit more narrow sounding. So I took out some of the lows, some of the highs. And then the next thing you gotta do is bring in a pitch shifter and shift the pitch down 3 semitones. And then finally, I added in some reverb just to sort of match the sound in the original track. And then you get something like this. All right, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Listen to the rig we just put together. Lil Tjay's In My Head. Let's go. All right, so there is the remake to Lil Tjay's In My Head remade in Logic Pro. For your Logic users out there, I will go ahead and save this session for you guys. Place it as a downloadable link in the description box below this video. If you don't use Logic, I got your back as well. I'm gonna go ahead and save all the MIDI stems, audio stems, and include the drum kit heard in this remake. You can find that playback down in the description box below this video. But other than that, if you do have any questions on this, let's go ahead and chat in the comment section below. I hope you all have a fantastic day, morning, evening, or night, whenever you're watching this video. And as usual, I'll catch you all in the next one. Later. Peace.